Miss Rand, you have said that your primary purpose in writing is to project the ideal man. For those who may not have read Atlas Shrugged and have not yet met Hank Rearden or John Galt, how would you describe the ideal man?
Well, it actually took me about 700,000 words in Atlas Shrugged to describe him, so it's impossible to give a description, but I could tell you only the essential characteristics. Above everything else, a rational man.
A rational man.
Rational man, a man guided exclusively by reason, an independent man, and a man of great self-esteem. I would name these three as distinguishing characteristics, the essential ones of what I regard as an ideal man.
So a rational man then would depend upon nothing except his own reason for determining his actions.
Exactly.
No belief in, or no belief in anything he couldn't see or touch.
That isn't exactly the definition of reason.
Yes,
certainly no belief as faith, no faith in anything. But reason is the faculty which identifies and integrates the material provided by your senses. So you don't smell or touch with your reason.
Yes, of course.
That's the material which your reason integrates into concepts. And certainly an ideal man would never permit himself to act on the guidance of emotions or to act without knowing exactly what he's doing. If he's guided by reason, this will be the first two consequences. He will always know what he's doing and why, and he will not act blindly, and he would not act because he felt like it. To my ideal man and to me, this is one of the worst, most immoral actions that anyone can permit himself to say, I did it because I felt like it. It's quite all right to feel, but feelings are not tools of cognition. They are not guides to reality, and you keep your feelings to yourself. Feelings are the consequences of thought and action, not the primaries,
well,
not the guides.
If I didn't do it because I felt like it, why did I do it? I did it because...
Because you felt... Now you see how bad language is.
Right.
Because you concluded consciously that this is the right thing to do, right for whichever goal you're undertaking. You decide what you want rationally, and you choose rationally what steps you will take to pursue that goal. So that if you take a given action, you do it because you think it is right.
Does man have, should he have any concern for other men? You say individual, you say...
Concern is a very loose term. What would you mean by it?
Well, certainly most of us are brought up on an ethic that says that we are our brother's keeper.
I would say we most certainly are not, could not be, and should not attempt to be. The only concern men should have for other men is respect for their rights. A man should never expect another man to sacrifice for him, nor should he sacrifice himself for other men. He should respect the independence and the rights of others, and never take part in any form of enslavement, political enslavement. But outside of that, he's not responsible for other men and should never permit them to assume the role of responsibility for him. He should not submit to force nor exercise force. He should not ask others to live for his sake, nor should he ever live for the sake of others. He should treat others as traders. But that is, if two men agree on a given deal or they want to cooperate, that's fine. They trade value for value voluntarily, without sacrifice on either part. They both serve their rational self-interest if they deal with each other. If they don't want to deal with each other, they should not be forced to.
And you place the emphasis upon rational and their rational self-interest.
Oh, yes, certainly. I place that emphasis on everything.
Yes.
Because that which is proper for you on a rational basis cannot be proper for you on any other basis. And therefore, all your rights rest on your nature as a rational being. If you want to claim any kind of rights, you cannot claim them for your feelings, only for your mind. And the actions I regard as moral are only the ones based on rational goals and rational motives.
The others are immoral in your philosophy?
Totally immoral. You mean those the actions
that are not based upon reason?
Yes.
So that charity, in this sense, based upon emotion, would not be moral?
Charity is a very marginal issue. One of my main tenets is that charity should never be a duty, and when you want to help someone else, it is proper, it's not evil, provided you do it on the basis of his value, because he's a good person who suffers through no fault of his own, because he's a friend of yours, because he's a victim of injustice. Those are all helping values. But never on, if you grant a man charity on the ground of his flaws, his not accidental misfortune, but a misfortune brought about by his own evil, then that kind of help I do regard as evil.
How does the concept of love for one another, fit into this philosophy?
Shall we start with romantic love, because I don't quite understand love
romantic
for
love
one
certainly
another.
is a part of your novels. It's very
romantic
much a part of
love
the
I regard as the most properly selfish emotion there is. You fall in love with a person because you regard him or her as a value, and because they contribute to your personal happiness. Now, you couldn't fall in love with a person by saying, you mean nothing to me. I don't care whether you live or die, but you need me, and therefore I'm in love with you. If someone offered love of that kind, everyone would regard that as a deadly insult. That isn't love. Therefore, romantic love is a selfish emotion. It is the choice of a person as a great value, and what you fall in love with is the same values which you choose embodied in another person. That's romantic love, and that is profoundly, properly selfish. Now, any lesser form of love, such as friendship, affection, is the same thing in effect. You grant a feeling of affection to those whom you have concluded are values. Your response to others is on the basis of values. And if they're no good, then you feel the appropriate emotion of contempt.
Are values absolute? Is it either good or evil? Is there any area in between?
That depends what you mean.
On which value?
I would say values are contextual. They depend on the context of a given situation. Now, there are unfortunately too many people who are part good, part bad. Well, that's their problem. But what morality would demand of them is to struggle to the best of their ability to be good and never do evil consciously. If a man does that, I would regard him as completely good. If he never does evil consciously, deliberately. However, if he does just one action which he knows to be wrong, but permits it to himself, then he's evil, absolutely. The rest is only a matter of time.
You've written that the concept of God is morally evil. Why?
I didn't say it's morally evil. Oh. Not in those words. I said it's false.
False?
I said it's a fantasy. It doesn't exist. I would say religion can be very dangerous psycho-epistemologically in regard to the working of a man's mind. Faith is dangerous because a man who permits himself to exempt some aspect of reality from reason and to believe in a God, even though he knows he has no reason to believe in a God, there is no evidence of a God's existence, that is the danger. Psychologically, that man is not going to be rational or will have a terrible conflict. It's wrong in that way. However, let me say, I certainly recognize anyone's right to have any religion they want to. Their legal right. Morally or philosophically, that's a different issue.
For many people, religion is a way of explaining the mysteries of life, the unknown things. Do you recognize no mysteries?
I don't believe that lack of knowledge is a license to start inventing fantasies. Man certainly is not omniscient, and I believe he should stay within that which he knows, act on his knowledge, and constantly try to expand his knowledge. It's not necessary to be omniscient. I don't think there are mysteries. It's a wrong term. There are a great many things which man doesn't know. And that's what the progress of science's knowledge is for, to learn more and more, but not to invent explanation for what you do not know.
Ms. Rand, you're an atheist. Were you always an atheist? Did you grow up with religious training at all? Or?
No, I had practically no religious training. My parents were formally had a religion, but fortunately didn't impose it on me in any serious way. And I was about 13 when I decided I'm an atheist, and that was that.
Was there anything that brought you to this?
No, just simply thinking on the subject. And my main reason was that it is wrong to believe anything for which there is no evidence, and also the fact that I resent religious morality, which tells man that he's an inferior being.
He's not.
He is not. As far as he knows, he's the highest creation in civilization, or the highest being. And the idea of accepting on faith some ineffable being who is superior to you in every way, even though you cannot aspire to that perfection, that is just a formula for psychological inferiority complex, for self-abasement, and I saw no reason for men to accept it. That's as early as 13.
Yes.
I still think so, but I know it much more clearly now.
What kind of education did you have as a young person? You grew up in what is now Leningrad, but then was St. Petersburg. Did you go to regular schools?
Well, I had a regular equivalent of what here is called a high school. It was a gymnasium in Russia. And graduated from the University of Leningrad.
What were your interests in those early years? Were they in literature, in writing?
I had decided that I would be a writer at the age of 9.
At 9?
At 9. And therefore, that was my one overriding interest. But I didn't major in literature in university. I knew that I would learn nothing in school. So that...
You were determined, you knew that you would learn nothing.
Yes. From what I had gathered about the kind of literary courses that were being given. So I majored in history because I wanted to know the history of mankind as a sort of broad frame of reference for my novels, for my future novels.